Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I have some breaking news for you. Yeah, it's pretty shocking. This is actually something that I did not expect. Mikhaila Peterson has just announced in a video, casually, kind of at the end of it, well, sort of at the beginning and then at the end, that she is no longer a carnivore. Very, very interesting. Of all the people that I thought would jump off the bandwagon, I didn't think it would be her. So I think we need to get into this right here on Black Box Warning.
I've got a lot to say, can't hold it in this time. Got no filter, I got no filter. No filter, I got no filter. No filter, I got no filter. No filter, I got no filter.
Do you guys know what that means? It means this girl can't call herself a carnivore anymore. Now, this has always been my theory. Heal the gut, add foods back in, easy peasy. However, it was not easy peasy. It is the first time in over 8 years that I've been able to eat anything other than ruminant meat without triggering an autoimmune or psych disorder. Not only does the diet work to put the vast majority of people into remission, but it means actual healing is possible. And I certainly needed more help than just eating meat and avoiding dietary triggers. In this video, I'm going to cover what I've done in the last 10 years, what's worked, what's reduced my sensitivities, what didn't work, what reintroduction has been like, and tips for people looking to try this. So let's get into it. Hey everyone, it has now officially been 8 years of the carnivore diet, specifically the lion diet, which is the most extreme elimination version of a carnivore diet made up of only ruminant animal meat like beef or lamb and salt and water.
If you do not know her story, it's very well worth looking at because she had some really messed up stuff going on with her when she was like a teenager. So if you haven't seen it, I'll put it up here. Just make sure that you check it out because regardless of if you like the Petersons, this has nothing to do with like Jordan Peterson or either her. A lot of people love them. A lot of people hate them. I could care less, honestly. I don't really have any kind of feelings either way about either one of them, so there's that. I'm just kind of milquetoast about all of this, but it's an interesting story. Now, both of these people, her and her father, had horrifying conditions that they both corrected with carnivore. So this should be really interesting. But if you don't know the history or you haven't seen like her TED Talk, then I'll post a link so that you can check that out because it's definitely worth listening to.
Started it in a desperate attempt to treat severe psychiatric issues, including bipolar type 2 with major depression and juvenile idiopathic arthritis that I'd had since I was 2. That caused a hip and ankle replacement at 17 despite immunosuppressive treatment. So that's why I went on the diet in the first place, and now it's been 8 years of it, which is crazy. However, I have even bigger news than 8 years on the lion diet. Right before it was 8 years to the day on this diet, I started slowly reintroducing foods without major reactions. That's the big part. So I can't really say it's been 8 years on this diet. It's 8 years minus a few months, but close enough really. So to reiterate, I've managed to reintroduce some foods without arthritic flare-ups or mood issues. It is the first time in over 8 years that I've been able to eat anything other than ruminant meat without triggering an autoimmune or psych disorder. Do you guys know what that means? One, it means this girl can't call herself a carnivore anymore.
So she actually was allergic to like air. I mean, it was bad. Like she couldn't eat anything. And her father had kind of the same type of thing going on. So this is a big deal if she's able to tolerate other things. So, a lot of people are going to really have something to say about this, I'm sure. But that is an amazing thing. If she's able to eat other things. Now, my opinion of whether she should is a different story altogether. Now, that's a different aspect that I'll give my thoughts on at the end. But if she can, without it doing what it used to do to her, then that is an achievement. So I'll give her that.
But more importantly, it means that not only does the diet work to put the vast majority of people into remission while they're on it, but it means actual healing
I don't like that word remission. She uses that term a lot, basically to describe what's going on, like with all these diseases of the West, these autoimmune diseases, which are not really diseases. It's kind of like what we're doing to our body, you know, all of the chemicals and all the things that are causing all the problems. That's not really a disease. That's poisoning yourself, kind of. So to call it remission on some of the stuff, I'm not a big fan of that, really.
Is possible. Now, this has always been my theory, which is all over my website, liondiet.com. Heal the gut, add foods back in, easy peasy. The Lion Diet is supposed to be used as an elimination diet to give you symptom relief while you pursue the root cause. However, it was not easy peasy. It took me 8 years to be able to eat anything without getting arthritis or psych symptoms. So for a while there, the healing part felt like a pipe dream. Or I thought I was going to be on a meat diet forever to stay in remission, which I would have been fine with. But it just felt like that wasn't addressing something that was still a problem. So in theory, the leaky gut, heal the gut, introduce foods sounded good. But in reality, getting there was harder than just heal your gut. It was not easily done. And I certainly needed more help than just eating meat, which is already a big enough deal, and avoiding dietary triggers. Before we get into details, you may know this, I've launched the world's largest keto and carnivore study on the Lion Diet and keto diet and its impact on rheumatoid arthritis and IBD. The study is run by a medical team separate from me, but I'm trying to collect funding.
My studies. If you know me, you know how I feel about these nutritional studies. Not that you can't get good data. I'm sure that there's pockets of data you can get. There's information, there's pieces of information to be had. However, it's nutrition amongst a bunch of little human snowflakes, and everybody's different, and it's muddy.
As you guys know, studies like this are not easy to organize and impossible to fund because they don't rely on pharmaceuticals. So they don't get funding. If anything, they go against pharmaceutical companies. So it's up to people like me and you guys to get them done. And doctors and researchers that are actually interested in helping people, not just making money. So that's kind of pathetic. But here we are. And we have the study and we have the team and we have a bunch of funding. We're just looking for a bit more. So if you would like to support the study, it would be greatly appreciated. I think it could change the medical landscape. And now we know at least
it's very doubtful it's going to change anything, but I mean, it'll be interesting to see what they come up with.
For me, as a case study, I'm eating things without getting arthritis. That is crazy. That's crazy.
I don't mean to sound, I just want to add here, I don't mean to sound black-pilled. I really, really don't. And I don't want to make it sound like there's no hope of the medical industrial complex like being dismantled at any point in time, and it's just always going to be there and we're always going to be subject to it. But and I don't believe that. I really don't. I think things will change substantially throughout time, but it's going to take a decent amount of time because this has been around and controlled the masses for a long time, and these kind of things don't fall quietly or easily. So that's what I meant by that. I don't want to sound too dark.
That hasn't happened to me, like I said, in 8 years, and I've had arthritis since I was 2. Now, the meat diet did put it in remission, but I couldn't eat anything other than meat until now. So we need some research because this is crazy. Whatever isn't supported by your guys' donations, I'm going to cover with business money thanks to Peterson Academy. So this is getting done either way, but I would like some more help if possible. Or if you're in America, haven't tried the keto or carnivore diet, are diagnosed formally by a doctor with rheumatoid arthritis or IBD, and you're interested in taking part of the study, please consider applying. We're still looking for more people to take part in it. We want a bunch of people, so this is really taken seriously. You'll get coaching, you'll get a horde of tests done that you'll get results to, and maybe suffering with a disease might be able to stop other people suffering in the future.
Yes, except for you're not locking anybody up. You're not controlling things, so that's what I have a problem with. I had to say that. I'm sorry. My studies, okay? You can't really control everything, so how valid can it be? That's my problem with it. Not that they shouldn't try. Maybe they should. I don't know. I have very muddy feelings on this, so I'll shut up. Sorry.
Depending on the results of the study, of course. There's more info about the study linked on the GoFundMe page below and in my last YouTube video, and the link to apply to take part in the study and support it are in the description. Please share it. I think it could change how autoimmunity is treated eventually, and the current medical system doesn't treat autoimmunity. They have no idea what they're doing in that regard.
I agree with her there.
So let's get into it. Let's start at the beginning. I think this would be good, of my diet journey. If you guys don't know, I didn't start my diet journey by only eating beef. First, I cut out gluten. And then when that mildly improved symptoms, out of curiosity, not because I actually thought it would do anything, I stopped eating processed foods, all processed foods, dairy, eggs, and most fruit, and was eating a very limited paleo diet to rule out diet as a factor in my illnesses.
That's interesting because a lot of us start that way. There's like a natural progression all the way to carnivore where you actually first you cut out all the processed food, then you go to like a keto type of situation, and then if that's not effective, you go to the carnivore lifestyle, because that's the logical place to go after that. Usually lion diet too, like at first. So it's just interesting that there's a pattern to all of this. I did a video about my medical history and the nightmare that is my experience with the medical industrial complex earlier today, and posted it. And that was kind of illustrated in there, where I actually went, a little at a time, starvation diet, then get rid of processed food, then go to keto, then go to carnivore. And carnivore was the only one that worked. So for everything. So that's interesting that she kind of has that same pattern.
From mid 2015 to mid 2016. And from mid 2016 to December 2017, I was only eating meat and greens. So that was like meat, lettuce, collard greens, arugula, spinach, I don't know, greens. So I didn't go from the standard American diet to just beef. I went from basically the autoimmune paleo or GAPS diet, but stricter, to meat and greens to just beef over a period of 2 years. Those diets didn't work 100% for my autoimmune issues, or I wouldn't have done just beef. Now, what those initial paleo and keto-like diets did is they did reduce my symptoms massively and got me off of antidepressants, painkillers, and immune suppressants, among other medications. They definitely started my road to health with a bang, were extremely effective, just not 100% effective. And I cannot recommend paleo diets or dairy-free keto diets enough for general health for the average person. However, I know there are a lot of people pushing the animal-based diet to treat disease, and I'm sure they help some people. But for people with severe disease, that type of dietary intervention, or just cutting processed foods, doesn't necessarily work. And sometimes you need to get way stricter. After my first pregnancy with Scarlett and moving into a moldy house, I wasn't aware of that at the time, but I know looking back, it had a leak in the basement and was definitely moldy. Those paleo and keto diets stopped helping really at all for my symptoms.
One thing that I think is very interesting here is that both her and her father, in her own descriptions, have been exposed to mold in different areas, and that they believe that the mold caused all kinds of health issues for them. I don't know what testing definitively shows that. I know there's like IgG antibody tests and things like that for different species or whatever, but it's just an odd situation, because they're living in two different places. They don't live together, both her and her dad. So, but I don't know if you've seen, but her father is very, very ill. He's been very, very ill for a while and was like hospitalized, and they didn't know if he was going to make it. He's been out of the public eye and all this, but she had said in an update that she believes it was due to mold, and that he was cleaning out his father's basement after he passed, and that he was exposed to mold there. And then she's talking about being exposed to mold too at a different time. And it's just interesting. I'm not really bringing this up for any other reason than you just don't really hear about something like that. It's like kind of a coincidental type of thing, because you got two different people live in two different places. It's just interesting. If you've had any experience with like mold that caused you health issues, definitely put it in the comments, because I would like to hear about it. And I would like to hear about how you were diagnosed as that definitively 100% like causing your problems, because that would just be very interesting to me. I don't know that much about it, to be honest.
I'm telling you guys the background here because the Lion Diet doesn't just work by cutting out processed foods. It's something more, and hopefully we're going to get into it with some research. A common comment I get from skeptics is, well, if you just cut processed foods, you'd get the same result. And that isn't right. I obviously didn't want to just eat beef, so obviously I tried everything else I could before giving up foods I love. Contrary to popular belief, but evident if you think about it for half a second, giving up all foods and only eating beef is actually extremely difficult, and it takes a lot of discipline. It's way harder than just giving up processed foods. So obviously I tried that first. It was also way harder to figure out I could actually survive only eating meat versus figure out trying to cut processed foods.
I think Lion Diet is difficult to do, but I don't think it's as difficult as you might imagine it is before you actually do it. Now, I don't want to do Lion Diet because it's too restrictive. Like I enjoy all the other foods like meats that I eat. So I love a lot of different types of meat, and I would hate to not eat eggs because they don't bother me, so I don't have any reason to avoid them. But that would kind of suck if like I could never have eggs again, or occasionally couldn't have cheese or something. That would be a little bit much to do. We're all not the divine, the wonderful, the magnificent Chafee. Glory be to him, the extra ruminant. But seriously, it's interesting to me that when I did Lion Diet, when I started doing it, I think for long periods of time it gets kind of difficult. But in the beginning, like it was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. And as for carnivore, like with what I'm eating now, with the eggs and the occasional cheese and pork and chicken, which I don't like. I'm not a big fan of chicken, but beef, ground beef, steaks, butter. I don't really miss eating other things. You know, I eat like pork rinds if I want something crunchy. So, I mean, there's plenty of options within all this different meat and stuff and fish. So, I don't find it a problem. But Lion Diet, different story. That's really restrictive, and I can understand why people wouldn't want to stay on that if they didn't have to.
It wasn't as obvious back in 2015, but it's pretty obvious now. So this comment about cutting processed foods and that leading to remission of severe disease and the reaction from people that some other diet would work that was less restricted is partly why we're going to be studying the Lion Diet versus the ketogenic diet versus the standard American diet for RA and IBD. We'll finally have a comparison study to see if the therapeutic effect of these diets is from ketosis and cutting processed foods or something more with the Lion Diet, like extreme elimination of plant foods that the body mistakenly starts reacting to once it gets too sick and the gut is damaged. But hopefully we'll have some actual data about this, which would be amazing. So in December 2017, I started eating only beef, knowing that beef didn't give me any symptoms, thinking I'd be on the diet for 3 months, maybe less. All these experiments are still on my blog, by the way, if you want to check out old blog posts from Confused Michaela. So December 2017 was after my arthritis came back during and after pregnancy, after a period of near remission on a meat and greens diet. My depression had also come back with a vengeance, although I was in antidepressant withdrawal at the time, so that makes the cause of the depression kind of complicated. It could have been antidepressant withdrawal, but regardless, I was depressed. So that kind of came back in 2017. And as anyone with depression knows, it's horrible. And that was the main reason. It was the arthritis too, but that was the main reason I was like, I need to get this under control. I don't want to go back on medication. I felt better. Now I'm feeling worse again. I felt better on the paleo and keto diets, and then I started feeling worse. And so out of desperation, I just went to just beef. 5 months into the Lion Diet and moving out of the house I'd been living in, which definitely had mold issues, like I said, I felt better than I had ever felt before. That was months before I ended up going on Joe Rogan talking about the carnivore diet. And in 2021, I started eating only lamb instead of beef and lamb. And I was on doing that for about 2 years. That was after moving to Nashville into a unit that flooded, and then most definitely had a mold issue because it flooded, you know, with this much water all over it. And then they used a fan to dry it out, which
That's Another mold encounter. So that's crazy.
Does not stop mold problems. Autoimmunity and genetic psychiatric issues are, at least for me, completely curable. Ha. Pretty satisfying after 8 years. Pretty satisfying.
Boom. Hit shot.
So now, more of the fun stuff, eating plants and other foods after 8 years. In the last 2 months, I have tried arugula, avocado, seaweed, broccoli, broccolini, coconut, mango, vinegar, ginger, Swiss chard, bok choy, berries, cucumber, sweet potato, caviar, salmon, and chicken. It was about 6 months ago when I first tried some mango and coconut. And that was because my husband kept tempting me with ice cream. What's the ice cream company? Fronen has good mango ice cream. Anyway, he's been on the meat diet with me, but sometimes eats some other healthy foods now since he's done the same treatments as me and they've worked for him too. That's a big deal. So JF, the husband, was also exposed to mold badly as a kid, got sick with me in Nashville and Miami along with Scarlett.
It's just a moldy world. It's like it's a moldy world because her husband named Jordan. It's her husband's name and her daddy's name. Also was exposed to mold. So that's wild.
Did the mold and parasite treatment and has been able to vary his diet more. Now, his symptoms weren't as severe as mine previously, but he was pretty ill prior to dietary interventions. It's been long enough of me reintroducing foods that I can fairly comfortably say the ones I've tried don't cause major problems. Sometimes an arthritic flare up would take a number of days to trigger, sometimes weeks, although usually days, but it's been months now, no arthritis. So out of the foods I mentioned, I'm not really eating cucumber. I don't like how that makes me feel. I think I'm allergic to avocados, so I'm not doing that. And I'm sticking to a ketogenic diet because I still seem to feel my best staying in ketosis. So that limits the mango, coconut, and sweet potato. Chicken makes me groggy, but fish seems fine. Cooked arugula seems totally fine. I am eating so much arugula. It's so good. Nothing I've tried.
That I did not expect. The whole arugula thing.
Tried so far has been catastrophic, like my food tests have been in the past. I'm using pure encapsulation digestive enzymes before I eat because I haven't eaten plants in so long. I figure my body could use a bit of help with enzymes, but honestly, it adapted pretty quickly. It wasn't this huge adaptation that I was kind of worried about. I got bloated the first couple times. Not surprising. I started the enzyme. After the first few weeks, the bloating went away and I'm good. And that was really it. That was really it. So I'm not doing cucumbers and avocado, which were the two raw vegetables I was eating. Well, avocado is technically a fruit, but only annoying people tell you that. So yeah, cooked vegetables is what I'm doing. Cooked greens basically and meat now. So now I can say my diet consists really of 95% beef, some ginger. I've always loved ginger, and pan fried arugula and tallow. I'm back to meat and greens, which is fucking amazing. Forgive my French. This seems super restricted, but compared to just beef, it's crazy. It's like the whole world has opened up. I haven't been out to order anything other than steak at restaurants, unless they can do something like grilled broccolini. So I'm not risking, I'm being careful. I'm not being stupid naive because I don't want to trigger anything. But so far, so good, guys. Okay, I know that was a lot to catch up on. So that's it. No longer carnivore. Crazy.
Okay, so Michaela is no longer a carnivore. Sounds like she's doing a lot of meat. She's just keto, basically. That's interesting that she's now deciding to eat vegetables. Personally, I get it if you're doing it for social reasons. If you're doing it because you want to, you like the way it tastes kind of thing. You like the variety and you miss it and you as a person go, I don't want to have to limit myself anymore. Socially it's hard. I like vegetables, I want to eat them. That kind of thing, right? But based on the horror show that was her medical condition earlier in life, I'm surprised that she's doing that again, because if she's that sensitive and we know there's all these toxins in all these vegetables, what I would imagine would happen is the more she eats like this, that it's gonna happen again, unless most of her problems were caused by other things or it was a combination, who knows? I mean, your guess is as good as mine, because I don't know how you would even come to any conclusions with all of the stuff that she mentioned that she was going through. So, God bless her. I mean, yeah, hopefully she stays healthy and this doesn't backfire. I mean, it could, or maybe she is like completely healed from everything that was going on and she can tolerate stuff. But I personally avoid vegetables, even if I'm able to eat certain things, because I know what's in them. I know what they're made of, and I also know that they're largely, like, nutrient useless, I guess. A lot of vegetables, people just go, "Oh, that has vitamin A in it." It's like, "Yeah, but not bioavailable." So just because something's there doesn't mean that you can absorb it, right? Or you can absorb different vitamins and things in teeny-weeny amounts that are negligible. In my case, I don't wanna go back to those toxic plants because that is what caused me the problems, and they caused me problems for decades. It hurt me a lot doing that, and now that I'm fixed, I don't want to risk that. There's no vegetable I think would be so yummy that I wanna go back and mess all this up. And what do you think about her going to now being an omnivore from being a carnivore for so long? Do you think that it's likely her conditions will come back? Would you do it? Like, if you felt like you had healed all of your issues from lion diet, would you go back to plants? Is there a particular food that you just couldn't live without? Let me know what your thoughts are on it. And as always, I will be just interested to hear them. So, if you like this video, if you give me a like, I'd really appreciate it. And make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future content. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.